Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Auction for the Soul. Today is our 4th of July edition, and a special Chazak Baruch to all the people that made it onto the Zoom call today. You could be standing outside in the beautiful weather, preparing your barbecue for your family, but yet you chose this Thursday afternoon to spend some time with me. I am eternally grateful for your support. All right, so let's just jump right in. Perashat Korach. Okay, first of all, this is such an apropos conversation to be having because it's all about leadership. Korach represents a leader that is interested in his own self-power. The whole entire conflict makes absolutely no sense at all, and I'll explain why. Okay, Parshat begins with V'yikach Korach ben Kahat ben Levi. Okay, so he comes from a prominent family, and we know the story. He makes this huge ruckus about why is it that Aaron is given the position of high priest. Why was he passed over? You see, Korach is a relative of a cousin of Moses. His uncle, his father, and Moses' father are brothers, and he's an older brother, and he felt that this position of high priest should go to him, and they completely passed over him, so to speak. They skipped him. So why wasn't he allowed to have this position of power? And then why is he doing this now? Like, he could have had this conversation months ago. Why is this happening now? So Pasuk continues, says, V'datan v'aviram b'nei Eliyav v'on ben Pelet b'nei Reuven. These are the people that are listed as being the conspirators that are going to fight against Moses and his claim to kind of usurp them. It says V'yakumu lifnei Moshe v'anashim b'nei Yisrael chamishim umatayim. They get up, they confront Moshe. Okay, there are 250 people. Can you imagine a mob of 250 people coming at you? Nesiyei Edah. These are the chieftains, the high level, high ranking people of the congregation. Kriei Moed Anshe Shem. These are representatives, people of stature, men of repute. V'kalu el Moshe. They gather on Moshe ve'el Aharon v'yomru alehem. They said, Rav lachem kol ha'edah. You take too much upon yourselves. Kulam kedoshim u'b'tocham Hashem. Everyone is holy, and God is amongst all of us. Umadua titna'asu al kahal Hashem. Why do you raise yourself above among all the people of Israel? So let's hear, what's their argument exactly? Their argument is that, hey, you know what? Moses and Aaron, you took a position of leadership and power. Who gives you the right? What gives you the right to take that position of power? Now, this is where it gets confusing. So what they're really saying is that everybody is holy, and that's another way of saying, why do we need a leader? What makes you a greater leader than me? We're all leaders anyway, so what they're really advertising is a potential idea of complete anarchy, right? Everyone's the boss. There is no one leader. It's a complete, abandonment of all hierarchy. And that's what they're arguing for, at least. But it's interesting, when you see Moshe rebuttaling, he doesn't say that, right? V'yidaber el Korach. Okay, then Korach comes in. Okay, he's the Mac Daddy, the architect of the whole entire coup. Okay, and he v'yidaber el Korach el kol edeto v'lemor boker v'yodei Hashem el asher lo v'etakadosh v'yikriv elav v'et asher yivchar bo yakriv elav. Moses hears this. V'yishma Moshe v'yipal panav. He's upset about all of it, of course. How could they do this? We just heard the story of the Meraglim and their complaints. We saw Miriam; she got punished again for the lashon hara. Why are these guys doing it? Haven't they learned their lesson? This is not about me or my desire for power. Moses has no interest in power at all. He knows more than anyone else what it means to be a humble servant. But Moses replies to Korach and his company, says, in the morning, God will make it known who is his and who is holy. Hashem, Ashelov et kadosh v'yikriv elav. He will know who is, and he will draw them to him, and he will choose. Okay, zot asu kuchu lechem machtor. Take these pans, make the pans, and then go through the whole entire pans. Now, then he says, Moshe, the land will eat the people that are not going to be zocheh. You're going to bring a ketoret. Okay, now you have 250 people, Datan and Aviram and Korach. 253 people coming with an argument. Okay, now what's interesting is that they're all one. They said we're all holy, which means there's no hierarchy, but they're all vying for the position of the high priest. It's a weird thing. Make up your mind. When people want to take away power from you, it's because they want their own power. That's what the Parsha is teaching you, right? So when you have people that are saying, oh yeah, let's just be democratic about it, yeah, let's talk about equality, that is a guise of taking power away so they can have power for themselves. And this is straight out of the Parsha. Read the Parsha itself, it shows that to you right away. It's clear that someone who wants power, the way you take it away, the way you destroy hierarchy is saying there is no hierarchy, we're all powerful, but at the end, everyone's vying for that position of power. Okay, great. Okay, then how does a conflict get resolved? What is the conflict resolution? Moshe says, hey, guys, stop this nonsense, and let's, God is going to, only one person will be able to bring this fire pan, right, the Ktoret. Whoever doesn't, the earth will swallow you up. That's how I would imagine the story would end. Meaning, Moshe makes this proclamation, and then boom, just like everyone who's fighting, that's not the right guy, not the right candidate for this position, the earth opens up and just like sucks them in. End of story. Isn't that how you would want the story to end? But it's interesting, that's not what happens here. When God wants to resolve conflict, he doesn't just completely obliterate the opponents. If you do that, it doesn't work. What ends up happening, they go out. Moshe says, we'll do this tomorrow, not right now. I would imagine, like, boom, just zap everybody and end the story. That's how I'd go ahead and get rid of dissent. Moshe says, you know what? God said we should take 12 sticks, okay, put them out, and whichever stick blossoms, that is going to be the person that God chose. And then these almonds grew out on Shevet Levi, and that was an indication that that Hashem chose Aharon. So the way in which the Torah deals with conflict resolution is by first making it super clear who actually is in control. It was unanimous. Everyone agreed that Aharon at that point was the chosen person. You can't argue about who was anointed, who was appointed. Okay, the conflict ends with the Jewish people recognizing who the chosen person for that job is, and then the earth swallows them up the next day. But once it's clear that we resolve this through peaceful means, okay, then the conflict resolution can begin. You can't go ahead and just obliterate your opponents. There has to be a place of calm, understanding, patience, communication, and once that is resolved internally, you can go and do the more aggressive stuff later. But first, there has to be clarity put forward, and it can't come through aggression. Aggression breeds more aggression. Okay, that's conflict resolution in the Torah. The Torah says, "Etz chaim hi lemachzikim ba." It is a tree of life to all those who hold on to it. Okay, and then it continues. The pasuk continues and says, "V'tomchea meushar," and whoever holds on to it is happy. Right? The people that are holding on to that tree of life, like in this parsha itself, they're the happy people, because what is the tree of life? That's the tree of truth. I want to live in a world of truth. I want to live in a world of peace. I want to live in a world of harmony. And therefore, I need to do everything I can to fight for peace first before I try to go ahead and avoid the conflict or disarm the conflict. Another pasuk says, this is another verse in the book of Proverbs. It says, "Darchea darche noam." Her ways are pleasant, v'kol nitivatea shalom, and all her paths are peaceful. That's how God resolves things. That's the way of the Torah, not by coming and zapping and obliterating and blowing off every single time there's something that happens in Torah. There is time for teshuvah. Even, by the way, Korach's children, who we know are involved in this machloket. They were part of that tribe of Levi that were dissenters. Okay. They did teshuvah as the earth was sucking them in. They did teshuvah, which means when Korach was being sucked into the earth, he didn't do teshuvah. He still thought he was right. Why is he doing it now? Simple. You know what? There's no hope anymore. We just learned last week that the people are all going to die in the Midbar. None of these guys are going to Israel. Oh, Moses, your leadership is so bad. This is the perfect time to go ahead and corrupt the people. They're so disillusioned, so angry with you. I'm going to go ahead and add fuel to the fire. Moshe comes in. Korach comes in, and he's so broken and so bent with his lust for power that as he's being sucked in, he still doesn't realize that he was wrong. It says that that there's a place on the planet, the Gemara says, somewhere in the Midbar, you could put your ear to the ground, you hear Korach screaming from the earth. And he's singing every single day, Moshe emet v'torato emet. It was only after he was completely consumed by his own passion and emotion that he was able to say that, oh my gosh, I was wrong. Only after he dies does he realize that he was wrong. But while he was alive, he was so embroiled in this hate, consumed with power, that he loses itself. Now, there's one person in this parasha that I want to kind of speak about. I want to go back to that first pasuk. Okay, there's that first pasuk in the parsha where we read about this person. V'yikach Korach, go back for a minute. Okay, ben Kahat ben Levi, v'tatan v'aviram b'nei Eliyav, v'on ben Pelet b'nei Reuven. This guy, On ben Pelet, who is he? What's his story? Why are we mentioning him here? Okay, why is he here? So, first of all, the only time you hear about On is here. You know nothing about him. We know later on that his name is not mentioned with the people that perish, that were actually killed. And the Chachamim want to know, well, what happened over here to On, right? He's mentioned in the beginning, and we don't see his name in the people that were killed afterwards. So the Midrash speaks about On ben Pelet. Now, we don't know much about him, except for that he was a person who was very much involved with the rebels. He was part of Korach's community. He was from the Shevet Reuven. Okay, he joined Datan, Aviram, and Korach, the whole crew. Okay, and that's all we really know. But after this, his name completely disappears from the narrative. There's a midrash that says that On was married to this remarkable woman. She was brilliant, okay, and she saves her husband's life. Okay, what does she do? She realizes that this whole thing is a suicide mission. These people are completely lost. We say, Lo toturu achrei levavchem v'achrei einechem. Right? Don't go after your heart and your eyes. Meaning these people were so lost. This is the parsha we read last week. The parsha last week of Tzitzit says, Lo toturu achrei levavchem v'achrei einechem. The tikkun for the spies is stop being someone that is lost with your emotional passions and be someone who is rational and grounded. So, okay, great. So that's what the parsha says. On sees this and says, you know what? My husband is on a path of complete destruction. He's destroying himself over here. You know what? He's going to join these rebels, and he's going to make bad choices, and I can't see my husband being destroyed. So what does she do? The day that they're going out to bring the fire pans, On's wife makes sure that he oversleeps. The night before, she takes care of him, wine, bread, whatever it is. He oversleeps. They want to come to her house to wake him up, and she's standing there with her hair uncovered. Okay? And they're too embarrassed to look at her. She says, oh, you can't come in, I'm changing. And they leave his house. And she, because she does this, delays his involvement, he survives. Now, the name On, okay, itself means like be'oniyut. On means lamentation. And On's name is actually an expression of someone who was, completely lamenting over the fact that he participated in this rebellion against Moshe and Aharon. Pelet comes from the word pelaot, right? Miracles, wonders were performed for him, and he was saved by death by the virtue of his amazing wife. Okay, we say that the pasuk in Proverbs, it says chokhmat nashim binta beita. It says that the wisest of women builds her house. Ve'ilevet beyadea teharasenu. But her folly tears down with its own hands. Meaning, like someone who is an intelligent woman, she knows how to build her home with wisdom. Okay? Now, this is the last part of the pasuk, but folly tears down with her own hands. The rabbis say that this is the wife of Korach, right? The folly brings down. She allowed her husband, Korach's wife, encourage her husband. Oh, you're right. You do this. You fight Moses. You're the right. You're the guy. You're the man. Completely opposite of de-escalating. She was escalating. She was frustrating him. She was egging him on. And that egging on leads to not only the destruction of Korach, but his wife, and thank God his children again were spared because their own what's it called, teshuvah. I'm going to end with the following story. There's a story that is told of a young boy who was just got married, and he comes to his Rebbe. He says, Rebbe, I don't understand. He's like, for years my dad's been trying to get me to go to early minyan, and I can't go. Why is it now that I'm married, my wife somehow she's able to get me to go? What is it? So he tells him a story. This is actually a story brought down in the Gemara. It's actually a very deep, interesting story. I don't have time to unpack it. Maybe one day I will. This story in Masechet Tamid, Daf Lamed Aleph. And it tells over there a story of Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great is, comes to Israel. And he's coming to Israel, he's blown away by the wise people. And he meets the men, the wise men of the West. These are genius, Talmidei Chachamim, rabbis, who have a tremendous amount of knowledge. And he asks them all kinds of interesting questions. You could go and look up the questions, fascinating questions. Where is the earth to the sun? What's closer? When from east to west or north to south? What's closer? Very fascinating questions. And their answers are also very interesting. But Alexander says, I want to conquer the east. And in order for me to conquer the east, I have to cross this area called the Black Mountains, the Dark Mountains. And can you tell me how to pass these mountains? They're like, no, it's not. It's too difficult. You're going to get killed. He's like, I didn't ask you if I'm going to get killed. Tell me how to get there. So the Chachamim help him go to this place. Okay, they cross through this dangerous place called the Dark Mountains, and the first village that they come to, the first city they come to, is a city run by women, Amazons, the Amazonians. Okay, and no men. The leaders are all women. Great. So they see Alexander the Great and his entourage, and they're like, "Why? What can we do for you?" And they're like, they say, "Are you here to fight us?" And he doesn't answer. And they say, "Well, just before you answer, just be mindful that if you do fight us, and you beat us, what are people going to say about you, Alexander? That you fought women and won? Like you're still going to be like denigrated for that." And then if you fight us and we win, you'll be made an even bigger laughing stock that you were beat by women. So why are you here? They understood that he wants to conquer. Remember that the masculine trait, which is represented by Alexander here, is about conquering. So he says, you know what, you're right. I'm not here to fight. I'm just here to kind of like learn from you guys. Say, okay, great. So he's like, let's sit down and have bread together. So they go prepare. They come back and they bring a gold table, and on the gold table is a gold loaf of bread. So he's like, do you guys eat gold here? So they're like, well, no. Well, if you really wanted to eat bread, you could eat bread in Greece. Don't they have wheat there? Like, you didn't come here to eat bread. You clearly want something. What do you want? You want power? You want to conquer? So he realized that, like, even though it's possible that maybe Alexander, a part of him really was looking for, this truth. Part of Hellenism is this search for truth, right? But all truths are true, which is a problem for us also. But, he's like, you know what? Wow. He's like, these women completely bested me on all parts. And he asked if he could inscribe on one of the city gates on the way out that I, Alexander, was taught wisdom by the women, right? The story is just about the depth of a woman that has humility and understands what femininity is. That is another way of helping a situation. For example, okay, I hope I'm not going to get in trouble for this, but there's a certain president in the world today, okay, who's running for office. And if his wife was a smart woman, she would encourage him to step down. And instead has been encouraging him to stay in power for whatever reason, because she wants power. And it's a busha. It's an embarrassment to her. Her desire to want to keep her husband in power is an expression of her masculinity, not her femininity. There's no chokhmah here. It's all about power and taking power. That's the masculine trait. A woman understands there's more to life than power. And she's there to go ahead and reset the masculine force to recognize sometimes, what are you doing? You're chasing after a gold loaf of bread at the end. That's what you want. You can't even eat it. What are you going to do with all this power? Where are you taking all of this? On ben Pelet saves her husband's life. Okay? Because she recognizes at the end of the day, there is a God. There is no power. It's an illusion. The money, the hustle, it's an illusion. There's no stress. There's nothing there. It's just an opportunity for you to respond to the situation that you're in. That's all it is. Korach and his family, his wife and him failed. It's irony is that one of his arguments to Moshe is, if I have a talit where the beged itself, the cloth itself, is made of techelet, the mitzvah of making tzitzit with the strands, the tassels, is that one strand has to be blue, so that you can make that distinction between the white and blue, so you're reminded of heaven. So he says, oh Moshe, what if I have a talit the talit itself, the beged itself is all blue? Does it still need Techelet? And he says it does. This whole thing is ridiculous. Obviously, the blue and the cloth, why are you doing this? Meaning, Korach believed that he was able to understand God's mind. You can't understand. That's what God said. And Moshe is just responding, that's the halacha. Halacha is halacha. I'm not making it up. The irony is that he uses that argument, the same argument that's supposed to humble us. The whole idea of looking at the kisei hakavod, seeing the tzitzit, is that it's not me, it's God, it's Borei Olam. He lacked that ability. What was the second one? The mezuzah and he said, well, if you have a house that's filled with a Sifrei Torah, do you need a mezuzah on the door? And Moshe said, yeah, you do. That's so ridiculous. Why would you, what's written in the klaf on the mezuzah is exactly the same stuff written in the Sefer Torah. And it's even missing a pasuk, the mezuzah. Why would that work more than having the Torah in the house? You see, this is nonsense. Twisted logic. It's not about logic. It's a chok. We don't understand. This is why, by the way, the next parsha Chukat, is paraduma. We don't even know the laws. We don't fully understand God's mind. But the irony is that these two things, the tzitzit and the mezuzah, you know what it's about? It's about lo toturu achrei levavchem. It's about not going after your heart, not being an emotional person. It's about being cerebral. It's about being grounded. It's about being someone who understands that our choices need to be rational at the end of the day. And if our rational choices are not choices that lead to peace, darchei darchei noam, if they're not kol nativatei shalom, you're doing something wrong. You are not being a goy kadosh. You're not being an or goyim. You're not being a holy nation. You're missing the point, my friends. Right? It's supposed to be about humility. It's about being someone who is open to the possibility of there being something more than just me. My understanding is an understanding, but not the understanding of life. The humility that a woman brings to the table, at least that she's supposed to bring to the table, I think is what's lacking in the world today. Strong women who have the ability of standing up and being clear about having a vision for peace is something that we don't see enough of today. Everyone today wants to fight. Fighting just leads to more fighting. The way you resolve things is by making it clear what the truth is. The word for mezuzot, okay? The Chachamim point that the word mezuzot comes from zaz mavet, to remove death. Moving death. You have a mezuzah in your house, it moves death away from your house. Why? Because if you have the humility to recognize that everything is from Borei Olam, right? The Satan he's not coming to your house. But if you're someone that believes that kochi b'yotzi miyadi, that everything comes from me, Satan loves that. He loves working with those people. Mezuzah, zaz mavet. Let's use this time to reflect on our own humility. Let's work on bringing more shalom into the world around us. Let us bring a world of peace. Let's remove these ridiculous notions of power, and let's focus on what really matters most. That's building a family, a community of happiness, health, and strength. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Happy 4th of July. We should really experience independence. All of our soldiers that are out fighting, they should come back soon. And the hostages should be returned immediately, unscathed, unhurt. Let's bring Mashiach together. Shabbat shalom, everybody.